Hey, what's up? This is Mark at Alchemist.camp, where we learn Elixir and Phoenix by building things. Today we're going to be working with regexes. If you're new to them, definitely go back and check out some previous Alchemist Camp episodes on them, because it's going to be a bit more complex this time. And what we're going to do with them is automate parts of a CMS to save time and produce content more efficiently. As you're probably familiar, Alchemist Camp has a lot of episodes on it, and there are also articles, though I haven't really been promoting those yet. And each of these is based on a Markdown syntax. If you're not familiar with that, you've probably seen it before in Reddit comments, and I'll give you an example. I've got Alchemist Camp running on my local machine as well. So here is a super simple episode, and I've just got this content as well as the video, of course, but that embed is from my CMS, not from Markdown. So if we look inside the content that's generating the episode, I've got ## random content. This will make an H3 tag in Markdown. Then I've got a word surrounded by single asterisks, which will emphasize it or italicize it. And then one surrounded by 2 stars will make it bold. And then this -- with spaces between them is my own syntax that I've extended on Markdown that'll create a horizontal rule, or an HR, aka that pink line or green line that you see here. So we have our header tag, an underline, emphasize text, and bold text. Pretty straightforward stuff. I've also added a couple of other things. As you can see, the Alchemist Camp Markdown library uses another library inside of it called Earmark, and that's written by Dave Thomas, the very same person who wrote Programming Elixir and a number of other great things at Pragmatic Programmers, so definitely go check those out. He's extended Markdown with some features that I don't want for Alchemist Camp, so I've turned those off. That's what the Smarty Pants false does. And I've added a few features of my own. The horizontal rules that I just showed you, like this one down here, and also smalls. So I made it so if you put a couple of minus signs around some text, it will make the text small. That actually clashes with something in Earmark's Smarty Pants, which is why I initially turned it off. And I also added one for bigs. So if you put a couple pluses around something, it creates big text. I'll show that to you here. So we'll make something small, and we'll make something big. And as you can see, those actual HTML tags have been added in. Actually, big looks big. Small, is that actually small? That doesn't look very small. Let's check that out. It is. All is good. Okay, so I've got those little simple things added, but there's still a lot of repetitive things that are in this content production. So one thing about every episode in Alchemist Camp is there is a video associated with it, of course, because it's a screencast episode. And in the case of this video, it's like 47 minutes long or something like that. And obviously someone who's reading this might be interested in one certain thing and want to just check out the video at that part. So I put in links. So you can go to 2359 and see how I explain how to check for a winner in a game. And I want those links to go to the right place in the YouTube episode. There's a syntax to do that with YouTube links, which I'll show you here. So here's a link to 1 minute and 2 seconds into the episode. To make a link in Markdown, you put something in brackets, and then you follow that by the URL in parentheses. So I just put the time in brackets, followed by the YouTube link with this $T equals 1 minute and 2 seconds after it, so that it goes to the right time in the video. And I've wrapped the whole thing in parentheses and made it small. I'll show you again what that looks like. So you can see the links here are in parentheses and they're small. So this is not a huge thing, but it's something I do again and again in episode after episode. And actually the first guess I make at the time, or the first time that I try, is often not right. So every time I make one of these, I have to type out this whole URL or copy it. I'm actually copying and pasting, but it's still a bit of a pain. And then I have to edit this time as so, and then when I change the time, I have to edit it in 2 places and keep them in sync. Otherwise the link will say it's to 10 minutes and 38 seconds, but it's actually to 10 minutes and 42 seconds or something like that. So this is actually a bit of a time sink. Like, it takes me, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or at least 5 extra minutes every time I make an episode, and I'm doing at least a couple a week. And there's no reason I should be spending that time every single time I make an episode. So what I did is I made a link to time helper inside of my Markdown. And I'll paste in the doc that I wrote for that helper. So this helper creates a link to a time in a YouTube episode or YouTube video. It will be of the format small, wrapped around parentheses, and then inside those parentheses we'll have minute, seconds, linking to the URL at that time. So for example, if I were to put in time 5:37, that will generate this entire bit here. Now this has got to get the URL to the YouTube video somehow, and inside the show page for my episodes, what I'm doing right now is I've got this content block here, and I just render raw HTML, and inside of that I pass the episode content. So each episode here has an ID. It has all of those things that we saw in the edit field up here. It's got a title, it's got a slug, it's got seconds long, video URL, all that stuff. So the episode dot video URL is where we can get the YouTube URL. And right now we're not using that. Right now we're just passing in the content. So in order to give Markdown everything it needs, we're going to pass in the entire episode like this. And that is going to break because right now this Markdown module is expecting to get Markdown in and output HTML. It's not expecting a whole episode. So here's how we'll do it. We'll create another function head for this to.html. So to.html, and instead of taking Markdown, this one is going to take an episode struct. My Phoenix project is called campsite, so this will be campsite.content, which is the context it's in, dot episode equals episode. And we're going to need some options, but I'm not going to mess with that just quite yet. Then we'll take the episode content, which is what we were passing in before, and then I'm just going to pipe that content into the new function that we're about to make called link to time. And link to time is going to take the video URL, which we'll get from the episode. So episode.video URL. And then we're going to pipe the results of all of that into to.html, and that'll just kick it down to this one, which is expecting Markdown, which is what we'll have because this link to time will convert the syntax for creating links to a given time into Markdown. All right, so we'll make a new function here for link to time. That's going to take in some text and a YouTube URL that we just passed in above right here, episode.video URL, and we'll use Regex Dot Replace. The matcher is going to take a little bit of thought, so we'll set that aside for now. I'll take in the text, and the output is also going to take a little bit of thought, so we'll save that for a moment as well. All right, so what's the format we're looking for? ::time, which I just chose arbitrarily. I'm using a double colon to preface any truly unique additions I make that interface with the app as a whole. So ::time, something in parentheses, and it's separated by a colon. So match : :time, and then to match this parenthesis here in the input string, we're going to have to escape a parenthesis. That tells regex that it's literally a parenthesis, like so. And that's the escaped closing one. Now inside of this, we're going to match \d, which is just digits, and I say plus to be any number of them, at least one, so one or more digits. And these parentheses that are red, now that's part of regex syntax, and that's just going to make this a capture group so that we can use them in a moment. And we'll have a colon, and then we'll have another capture group of one or more digits. And then the closing parentheses, and we're done. So in here, we're going to have -- because we're going to be making something small, and it's going to be inside parentheses. So we got -- on each side of a pair of parentheses. Then our output got to have an open bracket, then the first thing, a colon, the second thing, and a close bracket. So open bracket, this first match group that I mentioned here inside the digits inside the red parentheses, that is stored in \\1, so that's where we get the first match, and colon, and then we want to print out the second match and close this, and then open parentheses, and we need the YouTube URL, so YouTube URL, and after the YouTube URL we go to append question time equals first match minutes, second match seconds, and that should do it. Let me just check this here, save that. We will go to the local one, refresh. So we can render the episode. That means the module isn't crashing. Now we'll just add an arbitrary time link in. Check out this link to 2 minutes in. Time 2:00. And submit that. And there we go. And it's even and small like we wanted. Now, I've already implemented that in production. The code that we just went through is already on production. So I can just replace this 102 with time 102 and simplify things greatly and make it easier to maintain as well. 02. All right. Two minutes. Good deal. All right, so that's one task down. Didn't take much time at all, and it was actually even faster when I did it originally because I wasn't screencasting it and I wasn't explaining everything as I did it. Now, the next thing that we're going to add today is kind of an upgrade for what the CMS can do, which is premium snippets inside of episode pages. There's already a system for seeing if someone is logged in or not, seeing if they're an admin or not. If something is not published, non-admins can't see it. Certain pages require a login, but just any user could be logged in and see it. And certain pages have to be a premium user, like a paying member. So that is a pretty normal sort of thing to see. But what I want to do is make it so that people see different things on the page depending on whether or not they're logged in. And instead of this being something that applies to every single page, for example, this share link that I have here is only shown to people that are logged in. I want to make it so that inside of each episode or each article, each page of content on the site, if someone is a member, they could be shown something differently versus if they're not a member. And that decision can be changed inside the content of that page. So it's not, it's not a global thing. And the way I'm going to do that is by adding a : member tag and : end. Everything in here, this can only be seen by members. Everything inside will be like that. And there's also going to be a visitor tag that does basically the same thing, except it's for visitors. So say join to see more. And what I'm actually going to be doing with this, at least the beginning, is sharing source code. So members will be able to see source code snippets for the episodes, at least those that I have already put the source code together for. And visitors will see a link telling them that if they join, then they can see them. And this is a pretty straightforward thing a lot of membership sites want to do. So let's see how we can do that. We know if someone is logged in or not because that information is passed along inside of the plug in our pipeline. And we've got the same kind of thing for premium members actually. So you can see in my auth plug, anytime someone logs in, I call this put current user function. And that function just puts the current user into the assigns, and it also sets up some other variables. Like if they're an admin user, it sets admin user to true, or if they're not, to false. Same thing with premium user. So it's pretty straightforward, and in every single page, I've got access to whether someone's an admin user or premium user or logged in or whatever. Just for simplicity here, we're going to pass in whether if someone is an admin user or not, since I'm an admin and this is just on localhost anyway. So in here, we're going to get another option, whether someone is an admin or not. So I'm going to add that here. Actually, it should be premium. That's what it's going to be doing, and same thing here. And we're going to need to pass that along. And now we've also got to have a default, because maybe someone doesn't always pass in an episode, and whether if someone's a premium user, maybe they just put in some text. So we'll just make one more function head for to.html, and this will basically handle default arguments. So Markdown, and if they don't pass any Markdown in, we'll assume it's an empty string, and then premium we will assume to be false, and then we don't need that. All right, so here's how it's going to work. If they pass in two arguments, the first one will be the Markdown, and the second one will be premium. And in fact, if the first argument is a campsite.content.episode, that's fine. This will match. The only thing this top line is doing is handling if they haven't passed in two arguments. If only one argument was passed in, the first one will get kicked down to either this function head or this one, depending on whether if it is an episode or not. And the second one will just be false. And if they pass in nothing, then we've got an empty string and a false that'll go down here, and that's actually just going to output the empty string, because there isn't really much conversion going on there. Now, what we're going to do with this premium bit is we're going to have a function called Premium Snippet that gets executed whether or not this is an episode, because while episodes are the only thing that are going to have videos, other kinds of content, like articles, could have differing displays based on whether someone is a premium user or not. So I'm going to put this in very first in the pipeline, Premium Snippet, and Premium Snippet is going to take the admin. So very first thing in the pipeline, we will add Premium Snippet. And that has to know whether or not the user is premium, so we're going to pass that in. All right. Premium snippets are a bit more complicated, so we're going to do this step by step, and this is going to take multiple function heads. First, we'll do the one that matches when someone is a premium member. Premium snippet, and this will take text and true, so it only matches if they're premium or an admin. Admin is always premium. And we'll do a Regex Dot Replace. And let's see here. What we want to do is we want to find : member. So that's only going to work if it's the beginning of the file or the beginning of a new line. So first we'll match caret is beginning of the file, /n is just a new line. So we'll get one or the other. That's what that vertical bar does. And : member. Now we will optionally take white space after that, a single space. Then after that, we will match everything, which is what .star does. It's 0 or any number of anything, but we're not going to match it greedily. So this question mark here means we will get the shortest string that matches what we're looking for instead of the longest. Then after that, we need a \n and : end. So there could be any amount of anything between the line with : member and the : end line, but this : end has to be at the beginning of the line or it won't match. And we'll accept a white space after that. And finally, adding a /s to the end of this. That's the .all option. What that does is it makes it so that these dots will also match new lines. And it actually handles another hassle for us. As I've mentioned in earlier videos, the line endings are different on Linux and Windows, and actually really old Macs had a third kind of line ending. This /s will make this dot match a carriage return or a line feed or CRLF, and you just don't have to worry about it. And text, and then what we want to output is the second match. So we're not gonna care about this beginning caret or new line. We're just going to replace all of that with everything inside of this match, which is everything between the : member line and the : end line. So \2. Save that, and we'll check out our page. Regex Dot Replace 1 is undefined. Let's see here. All right, I opened my regex with a brace, so I have to close it with a brace. Could do it with slashes, but that's going to be the brace. And I'm going to get rid of this one as well. Is that right? That looks right. All right, so the visitor block is still as it was because we haven't made anything to handle that. But we can now see this can only be seen by members block. So definitely progress. Let's have a look at that again. I'm going to add a little bit more space here just so it's got new lines in it. All right. So let's make it so that we also handle visitors here. So in order to do this for visitors, we basically need to do the same thing again, except instead of looking for member, we're looking for visitor, and we've got to replace it with nothing because if someone is a member, they are not a visitor, at least in the way that I have conceived this. So they're not going to see anything between those blocks. And naturally, we need to do both of these transformations and output the final state of the text. So we're going to store this in a variable, say text equals regex replace blah 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 blah, and then this one is going to take in this text instead of the text that was passed into the function. Let's give that a try. Now the visitor block is invisible, and we're going to open a private window So this is not a logged in person. And let's see, no function clause matching. Of course not, because we've only got a function clause to match true. So let's do another version of this function that matches when they're not a member. So this is going to be false. And it's actually basically the same kind of deal, except now, if they're not a member, they do not get to see any of this between the member and the end. So that'll be nothing. And they do see all the stuff between the visitor and the end. There we go. So the visitor sees join to see more, whereas the member still sees this can only be seen by members. The next thing I want to do is enable a more sophisticated syntax. And I've already put an example of that into the awesome episode, which is another made-up episode that's on my local host. I want to handle member, visitor, end blocks. So you can see this member, this part is members only. If you can see it, then you're legit. Visitor, you just missed something amazing the members got to see. So it's kind of like an if then else. And it's a little complicated doing this and not accidentally matching, say, this first member block to this end at the very end and getting some kind of weird result. Actually, I'll just show you what it looks like right now. The episode is so amazing. How do you supporting member you? This part is members only. If you can see it, then you're legit. But we still see this visitor junk. So there's a bit of complexity here. We need to be able to match member end blocks and visitor end blocks. And we also want to match member visitor end blocks. But if we have, say, member something something end, visitor something else end, we don't want that to match as one big member visitor end block and have an extra : end hanging in the middle. So what we've got to do is, before we look for member end blocks or visitor end blocks, we've got to look for member visitor end block, and we've got to make sure that before that visitor there is no end. So this is a little bit long. I'm just going to use this matcher as a starting place. We're going to make this a whole separate variable since it is kind of long, and I'll just paste that in. So we've got member end. We want to repeat that, so we're going to have member visitor end. That's the basic structure that we want. This is not going to work though, because if we have member end, visitor end, this thing will match. So what we really want to do is, in here, we want to match member and then anything that does not include : visitor end. So the way we'll do that is we're going to use something called a negative look ahead assertion. So we're going to match this dot. This dot matches anything. So right now we're getting any amount of anything non-greedily, which is what that ending question does. But instead of matching anything here, we're now going to match anything except : end, because we don't want to have one of those before a visitor. If that happens, we want this line not to match, and then to go on to here and match the simple member end. So how this is going to work is this star is going to change to ? Exclamation point, which means negative look ahead. It basically means anything not followed by : end. So this matches anything that is not followed by : end, and this dot is the anything. So if for example, if we change this to L, that would only match L's that are not followed by : end. We're going to match anything not followed by : end, and we still want to get any amount of that. So that's going to take one more set of parentheses. I'm going to wrap up this whole thing, including the dot, and the star will get any amount of them. So we're going to get any amount of anything that's not followed by a : end. This is a little bit dense, but it's a super powerful technique once you get used to it. And we'll say text equals regex dot replace of our matcher text, and we want the second block, which is going to be all of this. Because they are a member, so we're going to get what was in between the member and the visitor block, and that cannot contain : end inside of it. All right, let's take a look at this and see if it works. That it's more than possible to have made a mistake in all of that. Looks good. Members only. If you can see it, then you're legit. I have not implemented that for the non-member path yet, and we're going to hold off for a second. Reason is, this is actually a really expensive thing to do, because every single character in the episode content, which as you can see can be like a whole blog post sized thing, every single character we're checking, is the next character a colon? Is the one after that a colon? Is that followed by END? And we don't have to do that. What we can do instead is we can just check to see if the character is a colon or not. So instead of matching everything here, we're going to change this to everything that is not a colon, or a colon followed by : end. So now our matcher is, we're going to match everything that's not a colon, or everything that is a colon that's not followed by another colon and an end. It's the exact same logic, but way, way more performant. And I guess if our typical content were just littered with colons all over the place, then we might want to go, yet another step and look for the : E and so forth. But this is more than enough optimization for here. So that is working, and let's add in the same logic for the false branch. And here, instead of the second one, it is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth block. That should have changed nothing since that one is logged in as a member. Oh, it's on the awesome episode. And so the visitor, the top is fine. We're not getting the how to use supporting member. Instead, we're getting hey visitor. And then down here, instead of this part is members only, we're getting you just missed something amazing that members got to see. All right, so this is a bit complex, I will be the first to admit. And to be honest, this kind of matcher is the sort of reason why there are memes on the internet like, I have 99 problems, so I'm going to try a regex. Oh, well, now you've got 100 problems. But on the other hand, this is a fairly sophisticated amount of parsing that's going on. It's highly performant because regexes are highly optimized, and it wasn't that much work, and everything is already working fine. So I consider this whole thing a win. It has certainly made it easier for me to offer something extra to premium members, and I hope you found this useful. And if you want to learn more like it, click subscribe, follow, and see you on alchemist.camp. Till next time, code on.